Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jason Strudwick, our buddy Ryan Rishaug coming up in a few moments. You've got Game 5, Oilers-Canucks tonight in Vancouver, so we'll tee that up with Ryan. Pierre LeBrun still to come. It sounds like, Leafs and Berube are moving in that direction, right? Like it could be just a matter of time. Maybe a little news dump, a long weekend news dump, although I don't know why you would do that. Why would you news dump a big signing and something you're excited about, hiring Craig Berube?
Well, you got to – I don't know. You wouldn't want it to be a news dump, Hayes. You'd want it to be kind of a big thing. And to take away from the Stanley Cup playoffs or whatever game is happening, it's difficult to find the right time if they do that.
Right. Right, but, yeah, I mean, that's the truth. I'm sure the league might be thinking, hey, can you whatever, but the Leafs have to operate. You got to do business, and Berube, if it is Craig Berube, and it certainly seems like it's trending in that direction, he's not waiting, right? He wants to know an answer there. So, yeah, I mean, again, I don't know when it's going to be announced. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it falls through, maybe it goes into next week. But if it is like tomorrow afternoon, that would be news dumpy even within your own market. You know what I'm saying? Like, forget what else is going on in the NHL. Like, it's a long weekend, and a lot of people have a lot of different things on their mind. I think if you hire a new coach, and if it's Craig Berube, I think that'll be celebrated, and I think people will be excited, and hopefully you get a chance to see him and hear from him almost immediately.
Yeah, and it's a long weekend across the country. So
yes, it is. That has been established.
Let me ask you guys this, and this comes from no good place. Let's assume it's Craig Berube. Mm-hmm. Who has more pressure on him, Berube or Brad Treliving?
It's probably still Treliving, I think, Strud, because the team isn't built yet to win. Right? Like if you have a team that is built to win and it's on the coach to put it over the top, then the coach would have the pressure. But I think there's an understanding here that the coach, hiring the coach, is just the first of possibly multiple dominoes that are going to fall, including major player transactions.
But it's not Tree's team that he assembled.
Well, no, I understand that. But what I'm saying is let's say Marner gets dealt. Let's say Marner wants to leave. They want to move him. Craig Berube has nothing to do with that. That's on Tree to make sure he gets the right deal. There's a lot of pressure. You better win that trade or at least saw it off, right? I mean that'd
be awfully difficult to do, Hayes, because you're talking about like if you're looking at a transaction back in the day, which was the Colorado Avalanche had a plethora of forwards. And they needed that one stud D. And Owen Nolan was the guy they decided to move off of to bring in Sandis Ozolinsh, if you remember. Mm-hmm. And they moved Owen Nolan to San Jose and brought in Ozolinsh. I don't know if Marner right now, his market is stud defenseman coming back. Is it?
I'm not sure it is either. I don't know what the market is because I'm not even sure it's developed yet. But there will be a market. Like I know how people feel about Marner right now and this whole Leaf team. It's not just Mitch. Like there's every Leaf fan is kind of bent out of shape about what's happened for years and the fact that they can't get through the first round. But he's an immense talent in his prime. Playoff history aside, during the regular season, this guy is a stud.
You can't dispute it.
Yeah, he's a stud. I mean, the guy, he's going to put up 90 points. He's going to be your first power play, first penalty kill, top line. So I don't know what that market is, but I guess that speaks to what we're talking about here. There's pressure on Treliving. You better find it. You better cultivate it, and you better make it work.
How much is Zadorov going to get overpaid coming to the Leafs?
Oh, that seems like a lock, doesn't it? I mean,
he's played so well.
Him coming to the Leafs or being overpaid?
I think being overpaid for sure. Someone's going to overpay for him.
For sure. But I think when I think of, and I'm just trying to put the piece together, let's assume Berube is the Leafs coach. When I think of big defensemen that played for him in St. Louis, whether it was, Bolmeister, Parayko, when they won the Stanley Cup, Joel Edmondson, who I believe was with the Leafs this year.
Yep.
He understands how to make big D-man function and work and how to support them. So I think that signing makes sense, but he's going to cost a lot because he has been, if not the best player for the Canucks in these 2 first rounds, amongst their best players.
I think you got to be very careful,
Struddy.
I think you got to be very careful of the guy that plays outside his limitations in a playoff run. And as you mentioned, if you're going to look at a guy who's, you just said he's been Vancouver's best player, you got to be careful with that. If you want to blow your brains out and say, yeah, let's just load up on this guy and try to, we've seen it forever in this market, and we can't have someone do the same thing again. Say this guy's going to be the savior back there. Like Mike Komisarek did it, and Mike Komisarek was a great player in Montreal. Very similar role, probably a better player than Zadorov. He played with that Markov, and he was the right-handed D pairing, and they came here, and it was like, this guy's going to be the number one guy. Run the power play, do this and that, and it never worked out. You've got to be very careful of expectations and be realistic when a guy's playing outside his limitations.
Yeah.
It's just very simple.
Yeah, you do.
It's happened before, and you get burned big time.
Well, and another thing that happens is when you have a lot of cap space, there's naturally an urge, like, got to spend it. Got to spend it. And this applies to every team. And that's when you get in trouble. You're like, well, we got all this money. We got to spend it right now. Why?
There's only one gotta, Hayes, and it's just got to be right.
Yes, exactly. But sometimes got to be right, is not signing anybody because they're just not right. You know what I mean? Or don't sign anyone on anything but a one-year deal, right? Like, look at what Pittsburgh just did last year. Dubas had millions. Ryan Graves, you get this, and you get that, and it's like, what are you doing, man? Like those, I know you felt like you had to put your stamp on it. You made the wrong calls. You spent money just because you had it. That money, once it's taken up, you're not getting it back. All right, Game 5 tonight. Oilers-Canucks out in Vancouver. Let's head there now and catch up with our good buddy, TSN Edmonton reporter, also a big part of a world-class podcast with you, Struddy. We love it. Here's our boy, Ryan Rishaug. How you doing, Ryan?
Boys, like everybody, pretty heavy heart today, but happy to be chatting with beloved members of my TSN family, and happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you, buddy. And we've been talking about Dutchy, Darren Detition. For those of you not aware, passed away yesterday. Dutchy at the age of 57, truly a giant of the industry. And you obviously, he worked in Edmonton. He's a Western boy, but you've done thousands and thousands of SportsCenter hits, and I'm sure hundreds and hundreds with Dutch.
Give us one, Rish, where you did a hit with Dutch and you just you turned your mic off and said, I can't believe that went down.
Wow. The problem is, Dutchy was fearless, right? So back in the day, that's the problem. Some of the best stories about him, I think if we tell him now, we might not be invited back. So that was way back in the day, right? When things, you could get away with that sort of stuff. The guy was fearless, and I just honestly, guys, I'm sitting here at the Sheridan Wall Center in Vancouver, and in 2011 we did the World Juniors together, and this is where I first really had a chance to meet him, was at this hotel. And I just remember the first thing he said to me, he was like, "Man, we're so lucky to have you. You do great work out there in Edmonton, buddy." And he just heaped a pile of compliments on me the first time that I really had a chance to meet him and spend time with him. And for a guy that I just idolized, I mean, it's amazing. And if you look around at the stories we're hearing today, guys, you hear some of those same stories. He was just so complimentary, but just an all-timer, all-time beauty lister, top shelf. He called me Shoggy Doggy.
Yeah.
And hey, Shoggy Doggy. And I miss that, man. He's one of the only people ever. He called me Shoggy Doggy every time I'd get up. We'd be ready to go live, and I love it and I miss it.
Yeah, he was a beauty, and if you did hits, and obviously you did a ton of them, you knew the energy was just going to be through the roof. Dutch, yeah. It wasn't like you were, was Dutch going to set me up here? Is Dutch going to,
no.
Is this going to, am I going to miss my cue? What's coming whenever Dutch was doing a TV hit with you.
Consummate pro. Yeah, for sure, man. Consummate pro. Just a dynamite guy, too. And in our neck of the woods, Strud, you'd know this, too. I mean, we all knew about Dutchy before the rest of y'all. He was a giant in Edmonton before he went national. That half-hour sports show at night with Perry Sakowski and ITV and all that, revolutionized the way highlights were called, man. He was just next level. So he was an icon in town before the rest of you got to experience him.
Yeah, that's the truth, like you said. And obviously from Saskatchewan, then kind of blew up in Edmonton, and then been at TSN for 30 years and obviously left an incredible mark He'd be excited about tonight. You know, he'd be jacked about Oilers, Canucks, and you know.
I wonder what his line on Elias Pettersson would be. He'd have something.
He would have something, and it would be harsh. It would be. You know, he'd probably say, "Why is this guy moping around all the time?" Like,
gotta love those $11.6 million complimentary forwards,
right?
Something like that.
Exactly, because you know, like Talk had said, he's not messing around with his top two lines because they've been so good, and this is the difficulty, right? Like, if you're Knobloch and the Oilers. Are they even game planning for Pettersson anymore? Or are they just assuming he'll continue to sleep and they got to worry about everyone else?
Yeah, I think he's going to get bumped up into the top 6 tonight.
Okay.
And I think Talkett sort of feels like he needs some help, which kind of blows my mind. I mean, trying to let this guy drive his own line and he just can't do it. So are they game planning for him? I think they're game planning for being able to, you know, to not have to worry a lot about him in the middle of the ice because he just doesn't spend a lot of time there, right? Like, it's pretty unreal how much of a shadow he's been. Look at the numbers he's able to put up, and he's just been non-existent. And then on top of that, and I know fans generally don't care about this or whatever, but, like, did you see his media availability yesterday?
Yes.
Like, it's just, so you're in the middle of this. Like, you're in the fight. Your team's in the fight. It's not going great for you. Everybody gets it. It's tough. But just so mopey and down and like one-word answers to Farhan about, you know, where his game's at and why. And just, I'm looking at that going, man, this does not seem like a guy who's ready to like break through the criticism and prove everybody wrong. He looks like a guy who's capitulating to it, but he's got.
What's his problem, Rish? Like, what is his deal? It looks like he's pissed at something. Like, what could it possibly be?
I'm not sure. Like, this is one of the things about this organization, and Struds, we talked a ton about it heading into the series. Like, the Oilers have been here. Their big guys have been here. They've felt the weight of this. They felt the weight of failure. They felt the joy of success in getting through to a third round. They've got scars, right? A lot of this Canuck group is kind of feeling this stuff for the first time, and it's not comfortable. It's not. And some guys, I think, are naturally predisposed to react to it a little bit different. JT Miller gets mad and looks at himself and apologizes to his coach, and you know he's going to be unreal tonight. What do we expect from Pettersson? I have no idea. I have a pretty good idea, and it hasn't been impressive so far.
Rishi, if I had told you in September that Calvin Pickard would be backstopping this game, what would you have said, bud?
How about in July?
Any time.
Yeah.
It's like there's Skinner, there's Campbell, and I told you, don't you worry. Come May, it's going to be Calvin Pickard between the pipes for the Oil. What would you have said?
I would have said, who got hurt? That would be the first thing that would come out of my mouth. Who got hurt? Because that wasn't even on the radar, right? Like, fellas, he's one of the best stories in the league this year. He really is. Like, this guy, to have resurrected his career the way he has, to have been patient the way he was, and, you know, it came off the rails here for Jack Campbell. We all saw that, and he's the guy that got the opportunity. And I'm telling you guys, when they first sent Jack Campbell down, I believe they wanted it to be reasonably temporary, a month or so. Help him get his game in order, get him back up. Well, Calvin Pickard came up and was so good and so consistent in the little action that he got and so loved by his teammates and such a great fit. He forced them to keep a $5 million goalie in the minors basically the rest of the season. That's how good he was. He gave them no choice. So here he is, big stage, second career playoff start. We'll see, but it's a great story.
Schauger, what was the buzz around the dressing rooms today about Carson Soucy coming back? You know, obviously the impact he can have, and then did anyone feel like it was a really dirty play? Like, what was that vibe around the rooms?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Oilers certainly felt like it was a dirty play. Evander Kane said, you know, I have thoughts, but none that I'm going to share with you guys. So they didn't love it. But I do have to say, like, we interviewed Carson Soucy the other day after it happened. And he's he's a great guy. He's a guy from around that area. And I don't know, Strud, he sat there apologizing to me, David, right after it happened. And he told us that. He was kind of like, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. You know, it's like the weirdest, most tame, chill, one-game suspension act ever. Like, bang, oh, sorry, man, I didn't. So I don't think there's going to be any sort of retribution. I don't think there's going to be any of that. Bottom line, Carson Soucy can impact this series. you look at the numbers, Carson Soucy, he's played some big minutes against McDavid and against their better guys. So, and I think they missed him. I think it's a good injection for them. They'll be motivated. It changes the dynamic. And they got a bunch of big, tall guys that make it hard to get to the middle of the ice, and Soucy's one of them. So, this will really help them.
Yeah, it's interesting, like from afar, how both fan bases have felt about the officiating. They both think that it's rigged. And
whatever.
Yeah.
Guys, I think there's too much talk on officiating. Like,
oh, my God. If you sent one tweet in the last week during this series about officiating, it's one tweet too much. Shut it. Let's all just watch the game.
I know, but I think,
seriously.
Ryan, I think there's too much about, like, it should be about the play of the players and great stories like Pickard. We're talking about goaltender interference and discipline and penalties and calling out GMs, calling out refs. Either the reffing hasn't been good enough, or I don't know, but there's too much focus on it. So I don't know what needs to change, but it should be about the players playing the games and the great stories of comeback wins. There's a lot of focus on it, and I don't like it.
No, I don't like it either. And like it's weak. I think it's weak. If you're talking about it after a game, these coaches and GMs have plenty of opportunity behind the scenes to do their campaigning. They have meetings with these guys basically every day. They've got access to the director of officiating. They can do lots of that stuff behind the scenes. And I think it's kind of weak when they take it as public as it gets taken sometimes. So honestly, it's like, move on. What's next? It's just that stuff drives me nuts at playoff time. Just,
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I mean, it's and it's not going to stop. Like, obviously, it's such a big opportunity for both teams here. You got a best 2 out of 3. It's two fan bases that have a long history, two Canadian teams. There's a lot on the line. I'm not sure either team loves the way they've got here, yet it's all irrelevant, isn't it, Ryan? Like, someone is going to be standing with 3 other teams in a week. Like, we're almost at the dance here. And have you noticed, like, the intensity rising, or the anxiety or nervousness? Like, how would you describe the teams as we get into now best 2 out of 3? It's no longer 4 out of 7.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, nobody's been able to put 2 wins together in a row, right?
Right.
The series just been bing, bang, like back and forth and back and forth. And I think that sort of gives us a sense of how close it actually is. But I'll tell you what, fellas, the first team that has a third line check into this series in any sort of meaningful way is going to have a massive advantage, because the big guys are going to do what the big guys are going to do, and they'll have their volleys back and forth and power plays and all that. The second that a third line decides to get on the board at even strength, oh my goodness, it's going to be a monumental swing in this series, because there's no 5-on-5 offense happening. There's no third line offense happening. Like, it boggles my mind. Stanley Cup championship teams have excellent third lines. They always do. It's a prerequisite. You have to. And neither one of these teams has a third line that can get anything meaningful done. Corey Perry, Ryan McLeod, and Warren Foegele. And, God bless Corey Perry with his limited mobility. He's trying to get to the middle of the ice. He's trying to get to the crease. He's trying to disturb guys. And he's got, Corey Perry will be in the crease with 2 defensemen mucking it up, trying to annoy people. And he's, Ryan McLeod skating around looking at the scoreboard, pretending nothing's happening that he needs to worry about. Like, I'm telling you, they got to start getting greasy. And I know it doesn't come naturally to them, but the third line swing in this series could be so massive. Ryan McLeod's one of the best skaters in the league. He's got to get his behind to the front of the net in the middle of the ice, because he's just wasting minutes. And yes, his analytics are good. He doesn't give up a lot in his own end. La-di-da-di-da. Third lines need to contribute, and he's right in the middle of that.
Absolutely. We'll see how it plays out tonight, and we're guaranteed at least 2 more games. So I wouldn't be shocked if this went 7, though. Enjoy it out there, Ryan. Appreciate you doing this, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And by the way, if you haven't asked Strud yet, I'm not sure if you asked his opinion on Calvin Pickard getting the start tonight, but you should definitely go there with him.
We will do that right now. That's precisely where we're going to go. I appreciate you leading the witness, and we will get his take on it. I appreciate that. Thanks, Schauger.
Yeah, Thank you, Schauger.
There's Ryan Rishaug. All right, go ahead. Where are you at, Strud? You don't think you should play tonight,
game
or what?
3, I was clear that I thought Pickard should go in, right? And
Yeah.
at that time, at the same time, I said, Pickard plays 4, you put back in Skinner no matter what, game 5.
Okay.
And I was adamant. I was on a roll that night, and I was feeling good about my decisions. Now I think my position softened a bit because Pickard played well. The 2 goals that went in.
Dangerous game, though, Struddy. Somebody said, we had Schneider on yesterday, and he's like, I'd have a quick leash on Pickard. When you say that about a guy in this game, it's like it could be toast.
What a confidence boost. Hey, you have the shortest leash on earth. Play well.
Yeah, but I think you have to look at it. I think we'd all agree that Skinner is the better goalie. So you want to have your best goalie in as much as you can. And I think Skinner just needed a reset. Now, Pickard played well, and the team responded in front of him. Not that they wouldn't have tried if Skinner was in there. But that was my mindset, is that, he is the better of the 2 goalies. And the lots he's been handled a lot, not by choice. The Oilers signed Campbell thinking he's going to be the starter. Now here we are, year 2 with Skinner being the starter. He probably thought he was going to be a backup these last 2 years. Mm-hmm. But opportunity's here. He's got to get it done. So, yeah, I think Pickard tonight. Now, if they lose tonight, that'll be an interesting conversation. If they win, I think it's easy again. Game 6, you see Pickard Saturday night in Edmonton.
That's the thing, right? Like, if they win, obviously, Pickard, you're just going to ride the hot hand. Like, you're not going to overthink that. But if you lose 2-1 and Pickard makes 40 stops, then what? Because your life is on the line. It's win or go home. And are you going to Pickard at that point? I don't know.
Well, it's if you look at it like I don't look at the numbers. Oh, I do sometimes, but I haven't looked at the last game. It's not like the Canucks had a ton of great chances.
Right.
It's not like they're getting chance after chance, and that's for all the series. They've been pretty, like, their goals have been hardworking, manufactured goals mostly. Not all of them, but mostly. So, the goalie, you just have to make the saves that we're all expecting you to make. And some go in bad luck, they bad luck.
Yep.
If you do that, I think you give the Oilers a chance. Even Sheloff's the winner last game. I thought that was a bit of a squeaker. Kind of squeaked through the old armpit, it looked like to me.
Oh, it was. Absolutely. And, I mean, credit to Bouchard, credit to Draisaitl, Kane. Like, they all factored into it. But,
sure.
Okay, we'll come back with the Brad Marchand audio, and video of what he had to say about the nature of playoff hockey. We'll discuss
Plug your ears.
that.
Plug your ears,
there's been a lot of people that want him canceled. He's got to go. And maybe a little strut or dud. I think we got some time for a strut or dud.
Oh, yes.
Do it.
We'll get to
Turn on the oven, babe. Turn
Turn the oven on. Strud muffins around the horn, baby.
Yeah, the ovens. It's heating up. Strud muffins are en route. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, our buddy Steve Sands coming up in about an hour. First round of the PGA Championship coming to an end. Tiger Woods won over today. Guess he bogeyed the last 2 holes. He was in red figures, and he couldn't close. But Xander Schauffele, 9 under. Finau, Theegala, 6 under. Rory McIlroy looking very loose. Very happy. McIlroy, 5 under. Very happy. And there's Brooks. Stress-free. It's like he looks like he's just out there having a good time. And Brooks Koepka, 4 under. So Koepka sniffing around. Not a ton of Canadian content. Adam Hadwin, 3 under, though. Hadwin, 3 under. And Corey Connors, 1 under. So shout out. And Adam Svensson, 1 under as well. A couple of good Canadian boys. All right. We'll get to some strut or dud in a second. I want to play this Marchand clip. Marchand, he spoke with the media. I would assume that means he's back for Game 6. Like, I haven't seen anything official on that, but kind of like when Nylander started talking to the media again, or when Matthews did, you just assume if you're in front of the cameras and ready to rock, you're probably playing. But he was asked about the Sam Bennett punch and what he makes of it, and here's what he had to say.
He plays hard. He's an extremely physical player, great player for the group. I think he got away with a shot, but I'm not going to complain. It happens, and that's part of especially playoff hockey. I've been on the other side of a lot of plays, and I think he got away with one, but I mean that's part of the game, and definitely part of playoff hockey. It sucks to be on the other side of it, but that stuff happens. So I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. That's part of the game. But yeah, I think he got away with one, but it is what it is.
Okay. He also went on to say, let's try to get the clip where he talks about intentionally trying to hurt people, or trying to hurt people and that being a big part of
as many as you can.
As many as you can. Yeah, that we'll get to that. But I actually have a great appreciation for Marchand there, just owning it and owning his own history. And, Bennett's tough player, good player, important player. Yeah, I think he got away with one. Of course he does. But Marchand he wasn't campaigning for him to be thrown out of the league or anything like that.
He fully understands you live by the sword, you die by it. He plays on the edge, and he knows that when you go out there and play like that, it's coming your way sometimes. Not that he deserved it, not anything like that, but those guys they play for keeps. And it's not like you're saying, I want to end this guy's career. You're just like, he'd do it to me, I'm going to do it to him. And that's the way they go about their business, whether you like it or not.
They played hard, and I think you're right. Dog, I don't think I never went out there thinking, I'm going to bury this guy from behind.
No, I know.
Right?
I
never. But if I could hit someone really hard and they're hurt after, it's like, okay, that's the game. And again,
Struddy, that's how I tried to describe it before the playoffs started. It's like, you're not just going out there saying, I'm going to rub that guy out against
right.
You're hitting to hurt them. That's just the reality of the game. It's like, I want to hurt that guy. I'm sorry. That might sound archaic and barbaric and ridiculous to some people, but it's like you want to hit and inflict some pain. And that's
what happens. But what happens over the course of 7 games is that, and I can only speak as a D-man, after a while, it gets tiring of getting hit all the time. And you get worn down.
How much can I take of this?
That's right. And maybe at the end you're a little bit, slower getting back. And if you look at the series with Vancouver and the Oilers, Hronik's been taking some hits. And the goal they scored to go ahead, Kane, you could see him running. Hronik could see him, and he didn't want any part of that puck. 10 seconds later, it's to the back of their net. So that's the investment you're making, is wearing D-men down or knocking down forwards in front of the net or whatever, rubbing guys out off the rush. It's an investment in time, and we've seen it time and time again in the NHL playoffs that works. Now, if guys get injured when that's happening, that's a byproduct out of it, but you're still going to play that way hard and be hard on them. But again, I'm not advocating about burying guys from behind. In fact, I hate hits from behind, but I love hard body checks.
Well, and what Marchand said is another reality of injuries is it benefits the other team.
Sure.
And, he said that in a later soundbite that guys try to hurt each other. And if you do hurt a guy on the other team, that benefits your team and it hurts their team. And that's just the brass tacks. It's just a straight fact.
That's right.
That's Florida took out Brad Marchand, Boston's a worse team. When Austin Matthews was out, the Leafs are a worse team. Now, they happened to win the 2 games without him and lost when he returned. But we know the nature of sports is if you're taking guys out and they're being replaced by replacement level or lower than that, that's going to benefit teams. And he's just saying what everyone knows in the room. Physical sports, intimidation factors in. Football players, you think guys they're not playing, touch football out there.
Yeah,
you come across the middle or a running back or a quarterback takes off, they are trying to destroy you. And I know it's a tough mentality if you haven't done it. It's a tough mentality if you have lived it. You guys have. And it's something you have to embrace. You may not have to get to a point where you're thinking I'm going out to hurt guys, but you have to be willing to make a play thinking I might get hurt.
Hey, so you've heard
there's 2 ends of it.
You've heard NFL discussions where there's football plays that, NFL films will have things and you hear them talking on the sidelines or coaches and they'll be like, if that play happens and it breaks loose, there's only one job and that's kill the quarterback. They're not obviously talking about killing the quarterback, but that's the mentality, the message is you go and you hit him as hard as you can and try to knock him out of the game.
Exactly. You hit him as hard as you can.
As hard as you can. You hit him to try to take him out of the game.
Right. And conversely, if you do hit a guy as hard as you can and he gets up and smiles, that messes with your psychology. That's like, dude, we got a real dude here. We got a guy here.
I talked about my philosophy hitting, Hayes. I didn't like hitting if a guy was looking me in the eyes because I'm like, this guy's probably just going to cross-check me right in the face. But if you could catch a guy that wasn't looking going up the wall, you could absolutely melt them and hurt them.
Yeah.
And it was a fun thing to do. I don't know. I found it fun.
Well,
Struddy, you probably did too.
Well, I've got the Marchand clip. Let me play it here. This is what he had to say about the nature of injuries and tough play in the playoffs.
I mean, that's that's part of the game. I mean, it's part of the playoffs. People don't want to say it, but part of playoffs is trying to hurt every player on the other team. And the more guys you take out, the more advantage you do have. And, people don't say that, but that's just a fact of the game. And, so every time you step on the ice, someone's trying to hurt someone. And that's just how it goes in playoffs. And any time you can get an advantage on a team, it's going to help your team win. And, that's part of the benefit of having a physical group. And that's why you see teams go the distance with big D core and physical teams. And it's why you rarely see teams that are small and skilled go far, because they get hurt. I mean that.
Yeah, that's.
That was almost like a backhanded shot at the Leafs.
That's all I could think of was like.
Me too. I was like, you were just talking about the Leafs.
Yeah.
No one cares about the Leafs. They're not even the playoffs. Don't even get it.
No, I know,
right.
but as soon as that,
You're right.
You're right, Struddy. But as soon as that left his mouth, I'm like, well, who else would he be talking about? Like who? Who else is he talking about? He's talking about the Leafs.
Yeah, but is their D that small? I mean,
yeah, they weren't that small, but it's. I think it's the skill and the. I
think it's me, New Jersey. If you want to pick a team, I think the Devils.
Could be.
That's the team.
Yep.
Small, skilled forwards, right? I think that group's got to figure it out as well.
Well, I mean, listen, forwards, like players in general, like you can see the guys who are uncomfortable with it, where it's just not there in the regular season. You just don't see. Some games get carried away, and those players may already have 2 points in the night, and they just say, "I'll stay on the bench. I'm not involved in this," but. The regular season just is not nearly as energetic, rambunctious, physical, nasty. Sure. And as a result, you can put up a ton of points by just being a skill guy and avoiding contact and scrums and the whistle blows. You go to your bench. In the playoffs, you can't, because it comes to you. It finds you. It will find you. The physicality will find you. And you can see players that are just simply uncomfortable with it. And if we can see it, the guys on the other team on the bench and on the ice, they know it, right?
Craig
Strud?
Button talks about playoff series all the time, Brian, where he's like, the objective of the exercise is to see who can be pushed out of the playoff series. Mm-hmm. So that's what Brad Marchand's talking about. Craig Button said, like his years in Dallas, you find out who's going to get pushed out of the game or not, or who's going to stay in the fight and play and take the hits and give the hits. I can tell, and anyone can tell, within 10 minutes of who's engaged and who wants to do it or not. It's not hard to tell, man.
Yes.
It's like you know who's in and who's out, and it's like, okay, that guy, I know what that guy's doing right now, and it ain't going to be good enough. You could tell in 10 minutes. It might take a period some nights, it might take 2, but it's not hard to tell who's involved and who wants to do it.
Or not looking people in the eyes. That was always my test. I'll be honest, I didn't go deep in the playoffs. But in intense games, people that won't look you in the eye, I'm like, I got this guy, right? Yeah. And I loved it. I love that feeling. There's no better feeling than someone not looking after you after you do something to them.
Right. Well, you probably buried the lead there, Strud. Don't you have to do something first? Like you give a guy a stick, you glove to the face, finish your check, and if that guy's like head down, bench, you got him.
Yeah, you know it. And then everyone knows it. Like you guys just said, everyone on the ice knows what's going on. Yeah. You got to compete. It's not about winning every battle or being the apex predator on the ice, but it's about standing up and competing and going to those hard areas. And I give a huge compliment to John Tavares. Like that, I think it was an overtime goal. Nyes gets, he drives it hard, and he's not flying past the D-man, but he just outworks them, drives the net hard, shoots like a one-arm puck on the net, goes over, finds Nyes, and in the net it goes. Yep. Like those are playoff goals. It's not beautiful. It's not going on kids' Instagram, but that is a huge moment. That's deciding that you're going to play in the hard areas of the ice.
Absolutely. Yep.
Loved it.
And then he's over at the World scoring OT winners, big OT winners. And when they were up 6-1. And it goes to OT. But JT he's a captain of Canada, captain of the Leafs, captain of Canada. Yeah, there you go. All right, we'll come back with some Strud or Dud. All right, we got some rapid fire Strud or Dud. I think I just heard the oven is prepared. What are we at? 425, 450?
No. Today we're going 475 and blowing up the Strud muffins.
Wow, the Strud muffins.
Must be
things.
deep dish muffins.
Deep dish Strud muffins. I love it, and I'm excited. Strud or Dud is coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, the oven is set at 475. Strud muffins. I don't think they take long, man, but you got to be precise. Right?
Muffin man.
Yeah, we can't do that, JP. I've told you before. Usually you have carte blanche. I can't hear that anymore.
And JP, you're on thin ice for not having the Marchand clip ready, so you can't play the Muffin Man anymore.
Yeah, that's true. There's a Muffin Man penalty for the next 15 minutes. All right, Strud or Dud. Regardless of who wins this series, the Oilers and Canucks have no shot at winning a cup with their current goaltenders. Strud or Dud?
Dud, because if the Vancouver Canucks can get Demko back, why isn't that an opportunity?
Okay.
And the coach said rapidly improving today for Demko, which I have no idea what the hell that means or what message that was trying to send. But maybe you see him in the next game. Bubble Demko is back.
Okay.
So, but I don't think you beat Dallas or Colorado with the other two guys, but who knows? Maybe you can. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe Calvin Pickard can beat the Dallas Stars or the Colorado Avalanche. Maybe She Loves Me, yeah, can do it too. I don't know, Hayes. Maybe I'm crazy.
Things have happened. Crazier things have happened. Struddy, where are you at?
Yeah,
with this?
I'll go Strud. Listen, I'd love to see a Canadian team get to the final. I think it's a challenge. Dallas is a deep team, and so is Colorado. But I'm just going to assume that Dallas is going to win, which is probably unfair to Colorado, especially after last night. But they're both deep teams. They're both good, strong teams. I think it'd be a bit tall order. And then as far as Demko, he's been hurt now twice in the last little while. Where's his game at? There's practicing, there's playing regular season games, and there's playing NHL playoff games. I think it'd be like trying to jump onto a train that's going by 100 miles an hour.
I agree. I'm a Strud on that too. I mean, Demko, I don't know what to expect. He's been hurt for months. And I know he's a great talent, but this is a really tough spot. I'll believe it when I see it that he's rapidly improving and ready to go. And if it's She Loves and Pickard, no, I can't see it. I can't see 8 more wins after this round.
No,
right? You got to get through Dallas and then Florida. I think that's a tough challenge, even with Skinner playing great, with Demko playing great. I think they'd be dogs. I think both Edmonton and Vancouver would be dogs in both those series, at Dallas and then at whoever's in the Cup final waiting for them. So on top of it, if you have uncertainty in net, which they both have right now, I can't see it. I can't get to that point. Strud or Dud? Elias Pettersson will respond tonight with a world-class performance.
I'll go Dud. And I think part of the challenge is that his line mates.
Wow, slander.
Ooh.
He's had Mikheyev. He's had who's not playing now. He's had Teddy Bluger, who's going to be the center on the line he was previously on. And I think that to build up someone's confidence, I think he has to play with some other more skilled player, higher skilled players. But I think this is, I think he's been challenged and said, okay, we're going to play with those more skilled players, but you've got to deliver. But I want to see him shoot the puck. I think he's got to have 5, 6, 7 shots tonight. He is a really, really good shooter, and it looks like he's not even looking to shoot, which blows my mind. If I had that shot, I'd shoot from everywhere.
Yep.
I'm going Dud on this one, and I hate to do it. Hayes, you know that I've been pumping this guy's ability for the last 4 or 5 years. I honestly, he's got some elite characteristics of his game, the playmaking, the shot ability, the one-touch passing. It's some of the best in the game. It's some of the best I've seen. But for him to go this far into the playoffs and not snap out of it, I find very concerning. And that's why I'm going Dud. If you can't get it together after 2 games against the Nashville Predators, and you're still in a slumber, waking up, being pissy to Farhan Lalji, one of the greatest guys out there, there's a problem here. And I've waited long enough, and now it's Dud. I don't know if you can pull yourself out of this slumber at this particular point in the playoffs. I hope for the Canucks he does. I hope for himself he does. Because who the hell wants to be that guy? We know what that guy's all about. Great regular season. Here's a big contract, and you're a stiff in the playoffs. Who the hell wants that title?
No, it's not exactly.
He could be the difference in
No
the series.
kidding. He could be the best
going.
player on the ice, Struddy. I thought for years he was going to be going toe-to-toe with McDavid.
I think that's pretty optimistic.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, here's the thing. Even if he plays his best and McDavid and Draisaitl play their best, he's the third best player on the ice. But I'm going to strut this to just go against you two. And here's why I'm going to say that. It's been 10 playoff games. At some point, this guy's going to have a moment. I don't know if it will be world-class for 60 minutes. Say he plays 20 minutes tonight. I don't know if he's giving you 20 minutes of just superb play, but he is so electric. You get him on a power play. You get him on a 5-on-3, 4-on-3. You get him on an odd man rush. He needs one moment. That's what he needs. He needs a moment to be a Strud. And he's too good. He's too talented. I will say body language yesterday, the guy, he's pissy, he's moaning, he's mopey. It's a weird vibe.
Sad watching that.
Yeah, it's a weird vibe he's giving off right now for a guy. And I understand it because, the world's, they're on top of him right now, including his coach, his team. Everyone's looking at him. But that's what comes with the territory. If you're the man, you got to be the man. You
and
gotta
that's
act
what
like
comes
the man.
with busting your ass for a month and everyone's all in and you're like, where are you at, dude? Like, Are you not wanting to be part of this? Like, we're all busting our ass to try to do this, and you are invisible. Yeah. And both of you guys know, it's not hard to get a hate on for somebody when they're just like, nah, that is not well received, or it wasn't.
Yeah.
Especially if they lose. And let's say they lose, let's say it goes 7, and they lose by 1 goal, and Pettersson hasn't introduced himself to the series all series long. That's a long summer for him and his teammates. A long summer.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Strud or dud? Assuming Craig Berube ends up being the next coach of the Leafs, Craig Berube will be the man to get the Leafs through at least 2 rounds of the playoffs. Not the cup. 2 rounds.
How can you say that? I think he could. But what kind of roster are they going to toss out in front of him? That's everything. We've said it, Hayes. Mm-hmm. Craig Berube's a great coach. He would be the guy that I would hire. You just won a championship recently. There's no nonsense. And the players in this team, it needs to start being about what's best for the team to have success. Not I want music, not I want skill development, not I don't want a tough practice. It's going to be what Craig Berube thinks is best for the team. So that's something that needs to change. He would be the guy that I would hire. Because I think if you went to him and said, we don't want to wear suits to the game, and we want music while we skate, and we want to do some skill development, he'll tell you to go stuff it very quickly. So that's needed. But if you don't have the team in front of him, it doesn't matter. They had one of the best coaches in the world in Mike Babcock, and they didn't want to do it. So,
yeah. I'm going to go dud as well. I honestly think for Craig, when he comes in, I would sit down and talk to all the players, the core, not just the 4, but, a deeper base, find out what was going on, how things went, and then approach the core 4, and including Riley, say, okay, I need you guys to buy into what we're going to do, because what you have done has not worked. It's clear. It hasn't worked for you guys. So we've got to look at doing things differently, where it's whether it's, the music or whatever, whatever it is, but then they have to be receptive to that, because if they buy into it, everyone will buy into it. Yep. That's just how it works in the dressing room. So I think Craig's job is to, they'll sort out the lineup, but he's got to get those top guys on the same page as him. And there'll be some hard things, right? There'll be some things they don't like, but who cares? You're trying to win. I'm not doing this because I hate you. I'm trying to do it so that you love the way we play and that we play to win together. Because it's just, 1 or 2 series wins for Austin Matthews. Like,
yeah, he's won 1. He's been in the league for 8 years. No, it's not even close. He's ridiculous.
A great player. And all those guys, like Neil, all those guys. And quite frankly, Nylander's been okay in the playoffs. He's played pretty well. Tavares is timing out, so they got to figure this out. But I think that's Craig's job. I got to get everyone on the same page and say, hey, we're going to change. We're not doing things the same way.
That's why I would be a Strud. He's not just going to be here for a year or 2. You presume he gets the job. They were very loyal to Keefe. He was here for 5 years. Babcock was here for quite some time. I think you're talking a 3 or 4 year run, and I think also things. Again, we'll see. I'll believe it when I see it, but I'd like to believe it's moving in a direction where the core 4 8-year run or whatever. It's over. It's done. And the franchise from Shanahan to Tree Living down to Berube, if Berube is the guy, is going to have full backing on what you just described. And then it's ultimately on Matthews, Nylander, maybe Riley if he's still here, to do what you just said. You got to get to Matthews, and it can't be. You know what I'd like to see? I don't want to see here. He flew down to Arizona to meet Austin. You fly up to Toronto for the introduction. That's what I'd like to see. If Craig Berube is being introduced, you fly up, Austin. Make sure you're in town. It's a big moment. It's your team. Yeah. You're the man. Don't make him fly to you and beg you. Hey, when can you get together? You fly up. Your hometown's Toronto. Toronto's where you play. Craig's your new coach. I think that would be very symbolic. We're coming up to meet you. We're excited. Let's get this right. Not, I got a couple weeks, in the future. Maybe you can fly down, and that applies to all of them. I'd like to believe that. Like you come up for the new coach. I'd like to see that happen. Yes.
Ask them, what do you see? What do you see that we haven't done right? Right. And they've got to be a part of the solution. And there's going to be some hard moments. Like, it's not all easy. Like, we're just not going to play music at practice.
Right.
There's going to be things that happen that they're not going to like, but they have to understand that they're trying to move in the right direction.
Absolutely. All right. Strud or Dud continues into the next hour. The oven's flying.
Do it the rest of the show.
Everything's
Crank
great.
the oven up to 500.
All right. We're continuing. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 now up on TSN 2.